in 2010 is when I started the blog Wannabe Balanced. It was just a way, I just had my second baby and I felt like it was starting to get to me, like the motherhood, like gosh, there was like a lot of pressure. I wanted to do so much. I wanted to be a good mom, a good wife, and I wanted to be balanced. So, but I also discovered blogging as a way to have this creative outlet or an online journal of sorts to share my quest for finding balance, because I felt like I was completely off balance and had so many things I wanted to do and wanted to just balance it all. The way I view balance now is completely different than I did back in 2010. Now, a balance then was more of doing as much as I could that aligned with mind, body, and soul, and just it was all more about my to-do list and how much I could do. And now balance to me is more of a state of mind. So basically I wanted to be like the kind of mom that just does it all. And my goal was to do that. I was like, I'm just gonna be like the best, you know, I'm gonna do it all, and I'm gonna blog about how other women can do it all too. You can, if you try, set your goals and pursue them. It's easy to do all the things that I do. If you plan and work smart, you can do them all too. It's easy, she said, and then she dropped dead. And it's just so funny because that poem was intended to be humorous. Like, yeah, you can't be the perfect woman, and we shouldn't be striving to be the perfect mom or woman. But when I first read that, I wanted to print it out and hang it on my wall because I was like, yes, this is my blueprint. I am going to do all those things, and I'm going to blog about it, and I'm going to teach every woman how they can do it. And I like totally disregarded the last part. I'm like, well, she said, you know, I mean, it says that she dropped dead, but I can do it, and I'm going to prove that it can be done. So that was my initial goal. And as you can imagine, it did not work out. I got to a place where I was so consumed in my mind, like everything on the outside seemed to be going just fine. But I had such internal torment that I was dealing with, and I didn't really understand how to process it. I didn't know what was going on with me. I think I went from having this victim mentality, like, oh, poor me, like there was so much that I felt like was happening to me, but over time I finally got to a place of empowerment where I realized, oh my gosh, I have control over how I feel. You know, I was dealing with every negative emotion you could possibly imagine, and Sean knows all about it because he's the one that had to hear me complain, like the jealousy, the resentment, the overwhelm, the stress, the anxiety, the self-doubt, and just everything you can imagine was all in me, and I did not know how to deal with it. So I quit my blog, I started trying to work on myself, and being able to make so much improvements in myself over the past year, I've been able to operate at a much higher frequency, meaning now I am attracting so much more opportunity, amazing opportunities, one of them being a long-time goal to write a book. And I made this goal like 15 years ago. It was a secret goal though. It was something that I didn't really want to tell people about because I was afraid like people would be like, okay, she thinks she can write a book. Like, I barely graduated high school. I went to like 2 semesters of college. I don't have a PhD. I am not a certified life coach. I don't have an Ivy League education. But one thing I did realize that I do have is a story. And that's one thing I really wanted to help you all understand, is that each one of you have such an amazing story, you know, and I feel, when I think about all the people that have influenced me in my life, my entire life, it's because they shared their story with me. something that they accomplished or something they overcame, and has impacted me in every season of my life. So your story is what becomes your mission. And your story is something that has impacted you in such a way that there's no turning back. You are a completely different person because of what you experienced. And by sharing that with others, you give them permission to do the things that they are, this burning desire that they have within them. You give them permission. You inspire them, you empower them, you motivate them, you pave the way. So I'm excited that I have the opportunity to share my story and to share it in a book. Basically what inspired this event and the idea to start blogging and then led to podcasting was my deep desire to find meaning and purpose in my own life. It's funny how different things happen in your life that prepare you for the next event. About a month ago, I had an experience that prepared me for this event. And I had a breakthrough. But before I had the breakthrough, I had to break down. I love Martha Beck's quote. She says, "Sometimes the ground is swept out from under our feet because we are meant to learn how to fly." And I feel like that describes so perfectly the experience that I had, and it was nothing that happened externally. Again, it was all within. But I felt for about 2 or 3 days like overwhelmed with fear and confusion, and I felt as if I was falling down a bottomless pit. I was trying to grab onto something and I couldn't find anything to grab onto. And I also read something really awesome in Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, because I felt like I was making a big leap and it was so scary. But he says that fear is excitement without the breath. So after I allowed this feeling, eventually I got to a point where I could relax and I could breathe, and then it literally became excitement. And no longer was I feeling as if I was falling down a bottomless pit, but suddenly I felt like I was flying, like I was skydiving, and I had a guide attached to me, and I had a parachute, and I'm ready, you know, and I'm looking down at the earth with this whole new perspective, and I'm feeling excited but also safe, and knowing that I have a guide, got my parachute, we're gonna safely land when the time is right. And that was just such a really awesome experience for me, and it reminds me of Martha Beck's book, Finding Your Own North Star. She says, she talks about all the different phases of change and growth, and the first one she calls the first phase is, she calls square one, the death and rebirth, the meltdown. And she compares it to a caterpillar in a cocoon, and the caterpillar doesn't just grow wings and become a beautiful butterfly. It literally, this is something I didn't know, it literally melts down into a fluid, and eventually it becomes and forms into an entirely different creature. I thought that was so interesting and such a great way to visualize what happens when we first have the breakdown before we have the breakthrough. We have to have the meltdown, and then we become an entirely different creature, a beautiful butterfly. I was thinking about this a little bit more, and the way I can compare it is, imagine as if I'm a tree. I'm rooted and grounded. I got a camera, though. I've got a camera, and I've got this one lens. It's the only lens that I've ever known of, but I'm happy with it. It's great. I got this awesome camera, this cool lens. It's just a basic lens, and I'm looking out at this beautiful scenery. I got some mountains to the left, a field of flowers. To the right, there's some buildings. And I'm taking pictures, and no matter what, though, the picture will always come out the same distance with this particular lens. There's no zoom in or zoom out option. Of course, I can change the settings. I can increase the shutter speed or the aperture, but it will always show up somewhat the same. And not only will it show up the same distance, but I can only take pictures of portions of the scenery with this particular lens. But then suddenly, I'm made aware that there are other lenses, there's other options, which is exciting. I never knew about it. So I try on the different lenses, and this one is cool because I can zoom in so closely with this lens. So I'm able to see the flowers, but now I can zoom in with this lens and see the flower in a whole new way. And I can see all the intricate details, the veins in the petals, the stem, the leaves, and I see the flower in a whole new way. And then I've got this lens, which is a wide angle lens, and I can zoom out, and suddenly I take one picture and I see the whole horizon. I see the whole picture now with this one lens. I can now take one shot and see it all. Suddenly I'm seeing the world and my life in a whole new way. And it's so exciting for me to get to this point. So if there's one thing that I could leave with you guys tonight, is to understand that the breakthrough starts with the breakdown, and that combination creates your story. Your story becomes your mission, and your mission is what gives you purpose.